She slid the paper across the kitchen table with the same casual smugness she used to offer a wine list I couldn't afford. "Thought we could have a little fun with this," she said, brushing her fingers across the top as if she were unveiling something cute. "Your annual husband performance review." I looked at it, an actual printed sheet with rows and metrics, bullet point categories: communication, attentiveness, mood regulation, gift frequency, household initiative. Each category was rated from 1 to 5, with a space for manager comments. A smile came to my lips, slow and hollow. "You've got to be kidding." She gave a light laugh, tapping a pen against her mug. "Don't be dramatic. It's just for fun, like team building." Her tone was sugar-coated, but the way her eyes flicked over me felt clinical, detached, like a supervisor pretending to be a buddy while planning your layoff. I leaned back in the chair. "So, how'd I score?" "Let's see," she said, flipping the page like a practiced HR rep. "Gift frequency? 2 out of 5. You forgot our anniversary trip planning." She looked up with mock sternness. "Mood regulation? You've been a little snippy during arguments." "Arguments? Right. Like when she called me emotionally inefficient in front of her sister after I got home from a 12-hour workday." "I didn't say that." I just nodded. "Got it. Anything else from management?" She snorted, delighted by her own joke. "Well, we'll revisit this quarterly, unless performance trends downward too far." Her smirk lingered as she walked away, calling over her shoulder. "Make me a coffee, will you? You're still above average in beverage fulfillment." I watched her disappear down the hallway, my hands still resting on the paper. I should have crumpled it, laughed it off, but I didn't. I just sat there, letting the words nest in my gut like a wasp hive. On the surface, it was harmless, maybe even clever. But beneath it, something ugly was growing. Not in her. In me. That review wasn't a joke. Not really. It was a signal. And I heard it loud and clear. The post went up that night. She didn't show me, but I saw it. Someone tagged me in a comment thread. A photo of the husband performance review sheet, angled artfully on our kitchen table. Her caption read, "Quarterly eval complete. Not bad, but let's see if improvement sticks. Hashtag married life, hashtag manage your man, hashtag performance review." The comments rolled in fast. "OMG, this is brilliant. Stealing this idea. Men need this kind of accountability." Dozens of hearts, laughing faces, fire emojis. I didn't comment. I didn't even blink. But the way her friends piled on, their smirking approval, lit something colder than anger in me. It wasn't just her playing manager now. It was an audience, a chorus, and I was the sitcom husband everyone felt free to grade. Later that week, I walked into the den while she was on a video call with 2 of her friends, Martina and Callie, both experts in marital microaggressions disguised as empowerment. She didn't hear me at first. They were laughing, drinks in hand, the screen splitting their faces into perfect, filtered tiles. "If he improves," she was saying, brushing her hair behind her ear. "Maybe he's worth keeping." They howled. One of them fake gasped. "Savage!" She laughed too, not realizing I was standing behind her. When she finally noticed me, she muted the call and turned. "Hey, just girl talk." I gave a slight nod. "Of course." I didn't argue. Didn't ask who was worth keeping. Just walked away and poured myself a glass of water, hand steady, smile thin. Something shifted in me that night. Not because of the joke, because of the tone underneath it. Because she thought grading me, publicly, was her right. That my worth was hers to weigh like a grocery item. I started thinking in new terms. New frameworks. Not revenge. Just balance. She wanted metrics? Fine. I'd start my own evaluation. One without hashtags. One that didn't ask for audience applause. And I wouldn't be grading on a curve. From the outside, nothing changed. I still asked if she wanted dinner. Still listened when she vented about her bosses. Emotional illiteracy. Still laughed when she playfully nudged me for leaving socks under the coffee table. I nodded, smiled, played my part. But inside, the lights had dimmed. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was recording. Her new review template was metrics and smirks. Mine? Effort. Respect. Loyalty. Presence. The things that don't show up in a caption but define the substance beneath it. The first few days I watched. Closely. Quietly. She came home late twice. Said she lost track of time after yoga. No apology. No interest in how my day went. One night she walked through the door already on a call, shot me a quick wave, and locked herself in the guest room with a glass of wine. She'd started calling it her decompression cave. She didn't notice I'd stopped filling her coffee thermos in the mornings, didn't ask why I no longer checked if her dry cleaning was ready. When her car registration renewal email popped up in our shared inbox, I let it sit. No reminder from me. I wasn't being petty. I was adjusting the balance. The part that struck me hardest came on a Thursday. I'd made her a plate, just pasta, nothing fancy, and she walked in from her strategy meeting, late, glanced at the table, and said, "Oh, you cooked?" Not gratitude. Not surprise. Just inconvenience. I logged it mentally. Under appreciation consistency. A firm 1 out of 5. That night, I stood by the bathroom mirror while she scrolled on her phone from bed. Her face glowed blue in the screen light, eyes flicking without expression. I studied her silently. This woman I once stood under the stars with, drunk on her laughter, drunk on everything. The same one who once held my hand under the covers when neither of us could sleep, whispering half-dreams about our future. I could still see that version of her, but only like a watermark, faint, fading, buried beneath the newer print. And still, I wanted to be wrong. Still, some dumb part of me hoped this was just a weird phase. A social experiment gone tone-deaf. But even hope, I realized, has a review window. And hers was closing fast. The first real test wasn't dramatic. No confrontation, no grand pronouncement. Just subtraction. Saturday morning used to be automatic. I'd brew the coffee, set the breakfast, check her calendar, and map out the errands she always forgot. Doctor's appointment? I'd remind her. Friend's birthday? I'd grab the card. Haircut reschedule? Already done. Not this week. She came downstairs late, wrapped in that worn gray robe she refused to replace. Her phone in one hand, sleep still clinging to her voice. What time was my dentist again? I took a sip of my coffee and kept my tone light. Not sure. Thought you were handling it. She paused, brows tightening. You always confirm those things. Yeah, I said, letting the silence carry the rest. Just focusing on balance lately, like you suggested. She blinked, clearly not expecting that. Okay. She tapped at her phone, muttering about late fees and missed reminders. I didn't offer help. Didn't suggest she check the email I knew the appointment confirmation was in. Instead, I watched. That afternoon, when she asked if we had plans for Sunday brunch with her coworkers, I simply shrugged. Didn't schedule anything. You always take care of that. I figured I'd leave some initiative open. See what gets filled in. Her eyes narrowed, not in anger, yet, but in confusion. Like she was speaking with a version of me she hadn't met before. She was right. The version of me who scrambled to meet her unspoken expectations, who handled the hidden labor while she critiqued my mood score, had left the building. What was left was observation, and quiet correction. By Monday, she started commenting more often. You seem distant lately, she said, passing me in the hall. Or, you're not usually this quiet in the mornings. She was poking, testing for softness. I gave her calm, not cold, measured neutrality. I'm just reevaluating things, I'd say each time. The irony seemed lost on her. The woman who invented quarterly reviews now looked unsettled when I did the same, minus the branding. I tracked each moment in silence, not for punishment, but for clarity. Her reaction to effort removed said more than 100 metrics ever could. She'd built a game. I was finally playing by the same rules, and she didn't like it. It started with a misplaced transaction, $327.48, labeled only wellness recharge. I'd been reviewing our bank statements for a routine budget check, something she usually left to me without question. This one stood out. It wasn't the amount, it was the pattern. 3 similar charges in the last 6 weeks. Each to vague wellness spas with trendy names, always booked during weekday afternoons. She never mentioned them. I checked our shared calendar. Empty. No appointments. No reminders. No notes. Curious, I typed the business names into a browser. High-end spa retreats, massage, aromatherapy, even float tanks. Nothing sinister on its face. Except she told me she was at work those days. I didn't accuse her. I didn't ask. I just started pulling thread after thread. Her Uber history, tied to our joint account, showed several rides to addresses that weren't her office or the spa. One trip ended at a boutique rooftop bar downtown. That same night, she told me she was working late on a product launch. That's when the noise in my head quieted, and the calculations began. I started cross-referencing her work trips. In April, she'd flown to Denver for a team strategy retreat. I checked the airline's frequent flyer site using her account. No companion ticket purchased, but the hotel invoice I found buried in the inbox was for 2 guests. Then came the final nudge over the cliff. I found a separate Instagram account tied to her old university email. A backup she'd forgotten was still linked to our shared cloud when she first created it. It was private, barely followed, mostly used for stories, but cached data doesn't lie. Screenshots, smiles, cocktails, her with a man I'd never seen, tagged only in private. Captions like, "Real connection doesn't require explanation." Sparkles. I sat in the dark office that night, staring at the screen, feeling my own heart recalibrate in real time. My stomach didn't drop. My fists didn't clench. Instead, I just exhaled. So this is what all the evaluations were distracting her from. Her review wasn't oversight. It was projection. A diversion. She hadn't been guiding the relationship. She'd been shielding something. And for the first time, I felt no desire to shout or accuse. Just document. She'd made it a system. Now so would I. I knew better than to go loud. People make mistakes when they panic. Say too much. Show their hand. Give away that they've seen the iceberg when it's still far enough to steer around quietly. So I didn't confront her. I cloned the backup from her cloud storage. The one she forgot was still syncing to our old tablet. It took 2 hours and a carefully concealed evening while she was working late. Again. What I found wasn't just embarrassing. It was coordinated. The man's name was Alex, or at least, that's what he went by in messages. They weren't graphic, but they didn't need to be. The emotional content was intimate enough. Inside jokes, support, flirtation disguised as emotional check-ins. But what turned my stomach was the message thread between her and her closest friend, Lena. The same Lena who toasted us on our anniversary. The one who once asked me if I was really happy being married so young. Their thread went back months. Lena was coaching her through it. Lines like, "Just don't let him catch on. Frame everything as emotional distance on his side. If he gets better, great. If not, you're out. You deserve to be the prize. Keep control of the frame. Control of the frame." I scrolled through dozens of screenshots, memes, suggesting ways to guide him toward change. Lena even suggested ways to make me feel like I was drifting so that she could exit without blame. Wait. This wasn't just betrayal. It was strategy. I printed what mattered, stored it in a labeled folder at the bottom of my filing cabinet, beneath my old tax returns, created backups, cloud, flash drive, hard copy. I didn't need every message. Just enough for clarity. Enough to confirm that this wasn't impulse. It was method. She had weaponized doubt. Now I was sharpening certainty. The next time she laughed from the kitchen, teasing me about not folding the towels. Hotel tight. I smiled and folded them looser. Let her believe I was falling behind, slipping into the frame she'd crafted. All the while, I was drafting my own outline. Not for confrontation. Not yet. First, I needed to see how far she'd go if she thought I was still asleep. The test wasn't over. She just didn't know who was grading now. The irony wasn't lost on me. While she posted memes about managing your relationship like a brand, I sat at my desk drafting a document of my own. Not for anyone else. Not for the internet. Just for me. Header: Spouse termination criteria. Subheadings: Integrity, loyalty, partnership consistency. Each category had indicators, examples, thresholds. Not a spreadsheet. Just notes in the margins of a life unraveling quietly. No scoring system. This wasn't about metrics anymore. This was about thresholds. I didn't show it to her. Instead, I started running live scenarios. Test 1. Would she admit her location unprompted? On Thursday, she left for another evening workshop. I waited until she was out, then opened the app I'd quietly installed on her old tablet, the one still logged into her rideshare account. Her driver dropped her off at a location tagged as Everly Social Rooftop. I waited. When she got home 3 hours later, I asked casually, "How was the workshop?" She didn't hesitate. "Fine. A little long. We broke into small groups." Test result failed. Test 2. Would she self-correct a lie if given the chance? Saturday afternoon, I found a receipt for 2 entrees and wine from a boutique Italian place we talked about going to but never did. The date matched a strategy call she claimed had gone late. That night, As we passed each other in the kitchen, I mentioned the restaurant. You still want to try L'Ardoise sometime? She froze, just briefly. Yeah. Still haven't been. Test result failed again. Every answer she gave now became data. Every smile, every soft apology, every casual "You're being quiet lately" was folded into the report I never let her see. She still thought she was shaping the narrative. She hadn't noticed that I'd stopped contributing to it. We had dinner with her parents the following weekend. She touched my arm mid-conversation, looked at me with that practiced affection people use to signal stability in front of an audience. "He's been really stepping up lately," she said. "It's like our little review system worked." Everyone laughed. I didn't. Because by then, I knew what she really meant. Stepping up meant behaving predictably, measurable, manageable. But my effort wasn't obedience. It was cover. I was giving her just enough familiarity to let her believe she still had control of the script. In truth, I was already writing the final act. The next test wasn't subtle. I didn't design it to be. We had dinner reservations, just the two of us. I made them a week in advance, even forwarded the confirmation to her. A small gesture to observe a simple variable. Would she show up when there was no social incentive, no audience to impress, just me? She confirmed twice. Smiled when I mentioned it that morning. "Looking forward to it," she said, eyes soft, voice sweet. At 7:45 p.m., I sat alone at the table by the window. 2 glasses of wine, one untouched. At 8:03, I texted just once. "Everything okay?" No response. I already knew the answer. Back home, I pulled up the rideshare tracker. She'd been dropped at the rooftop bar again. Different driver, same result. She walked in past 10 p.m. laughing, hair tousled, lipstick slightly faded. "Sorry," she said, her voice syrupy. "Time just got away from me. Martina called and asked me to meet her and a couple of the girls last minute. I figured we could reschedule dinner?" She didn't even blink when she said it. I nodded slowly. "Sure. We'll reschedule." She brushed past me with a kiss that didn't land. "You're the best." No guilt. No hesitation. Just another mark in the file. Test. Will she cancel a planned one-on-one commitment with zero explanation? Result failed. But this time, it wasn't the failure that stayed with me. It was the ease. She hadn't hesitated to lie. Hadn't stumbled or softened. Just pivoted, like someone trained in performance. Because she was. Her whole posture had become theater. Gestures that mimicked closeness. Scripts rehearsed to manage outcomes. The part of me that once hoped. It didn't ache this time. It quieted. Later that night, as she slept with her back to me, I stared at the ceiling, not with grief, but precision. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. This was acknowledgement. The contract was already broken. The rest was cleanup. The last thing I did before falling asleep was move the folder, my compiled evidence, into a locked drawer next to my passport and legal documents. I placed the original review she'd given me on top, folded once, like a cover page. She wanted metrics. She wanted a performance audit. She just didn't expect to fall short. I started with the finances. Quiet moves, one by one. No flags raised. No accusations launched. The joint credit cards frozen. I told the bank it was for security, suspected fraud. No one questioned it. I left one open temporarily, the one she rarely used, to maintain the illusion. Next, a new checking account in my name only. Different bank. Automatic deposits redirected from my employer with a simple online form. She never noticed. She was too busy, grading me, joking about my towel folding technique, leading printouts of mock performance goals taped to the fridge like motivational posters. One read, "Emotional initiative, still pending." I smiled when I saw it. Not because it was funny. Because I already had a lawyer. Discreet, reputable. Referred by a client who owed me a favor. I didn't walk into the office. I scheduled after-hours video consultations. No paper trail. No emails sent to my regular account. Everything encrypted, off-site, and logged. We began building a case, not for vengeance, but for protection. Financial statements, activity logs, screenshots, photos, calendar cross-references. Every lie she told was another thread added to a fabric she didn't know existed. My lawyer asked one question that stuck with me. "Do you want the fight, or do you want the outcome?" I chose outcome. That's what this had always been for her. Positioning. Image. She thought as long as the optics were pretty, the facts didn't matter. That being charming in a crisis was enough. But charm doesn't overwrite data. At night, while she scrolled beside me on the couch, I was studying her behavior like a cold investor evaluating a failing asset. Not with resentment, with clarity. She once joked that I needed more measurable growth. Now she was providing it in real time, failure by every metric she once claimed mattered. What made it all surreal was the normalcy she performed. She still kissed me goodbye on her way out, still texted me heart emojis, still laughed when I played along with her little office-themed evaluations. And I let her, because I needed her to keep thinking I was invested. That was the final test. Would she notice the silence beneath the routine? Would she feel the air shifting? She didn't. She'd already decided I was manageable. She just didn't realize I'd stopped being hers to manage. I scheduled it like a meeting. No raised voices. No emotional trap. Just a calm, well-lit room, 2 glasses of water, and a printed agenda, hers. She walked in from work, kicked off her shoes, and glanced at the kitchen table. "You reorganizing your resume or something?" she asked, nodding toward the stack of paper. "Actually," I said, motioning for her to sit. "I thought it was time for our quarterly review discussion." She blinked, half laughing. "Are you serious?" "I am." Something in my voice made her hesitate. I handed her the sheet, her original. "Husband Performance Review." She glanced at it, amused. "Wow, you kept this?" I slid another document across the table, this one thicker, heavier. "This is mine." She paused, eyebrows pulling tight. "Your what?" "My review of this partnership. Categories include integrity, loyalty, and consistency." Still no reaction. So I began. I laid out the receipts, the spa charges, Uber logs, timeline overlays, a color-coded chart of her stated whereabouts versus GPS data. Then the photos, hotel invoices, her messages with Alex, the just emotional thread that wasn't quite so innocent, her coordination with Lena, documented and archived. Her smile faltered halfway through the second page. By page 4, her face had gone flat. Not angry, not defensive, just stunned, like watching a magician reveal how the trick really worked. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything. I didn't mean for..." She started, eyes flicking to the photos. "You've been watching all this?" I nodded slowly. "Evaluating. Like you did." She looked down, hands curled in her lap. "I didn't plan to spring this on you," I said, voice low. "I planned to understand you. Turns out I did." She reached for something, emotion, apology, deflection, but nothing landed. So I ended it. "I've decided not to renew this contract." She sat frozen. "No shouting?" she asked, almost incredulous. "No need. That would suggest I still want something from you." Her silence stretched long. Longer than I'd expected. Maybe she was calculating fallout. Or maybe, for the first time in years, she had no script ready. "I didn't think you'd get organized?" "Neither did you." I stood, walked to the drawer, and pulled out the envelope. "The paperwork is ready. You'll receive it through the proper channels within the week, but consider this your advance notice," she whispered. "Can't we talk?" "We just did." And I left her there, sitting where she once graded me, now surrounded by the results of her own review. Undeniable. Unrecoverable. The filing went through quietly, but nothing about the aftermath stayed quiet for long. Within a week, her curated life began to unravel, starting with her inner circle. The same friends who cheered on her performance review posts suddenly went quiet. The comment threads that once lit up with laughing emojis and fire icons dried up into digital dust. I didn't say a word to them. I didn't need to. Truth doesn't travel loudly. It moves in whispers, screenshots, second-hand questions like, "Wait, she was doing what behind his back?" Lena disappeared almost overnight. Blocked me on every platform. I didn't chase. Whatever role she played, whatever advice she gave, it was now a liability for both of them. Silence was her retreat strategy. Her parents were more complicated. Her mother called me 3 times, voicemails laced with guilt and quiet apology. Her father sent a message that just said, "Didn't know. I'm sorry." I didn't respond. Some explanations aren't owed. The house, the one we once renovated together, picking tile samples on the floor with pizza boxes and wine, went on the market the following month. She resisted the sale at first, tried to negotiate to stall, but the financial shifts I'd already made left little room for leverage. She finally agreed. Her lawyer's voice on the call was tight, professional. My client is prepared to sign the listing documents, my attorney simply said. Acknowledged. She moved into a condo across town. Minimal furniture. No porch lights. No Instagram posts. I moved into an apartment smaller than the square footage we were used to, but quieter. Honest. Clean. And for the first time in years, I stopped checking my phone like it held bad news I hadn't earned. The strangest part wasn't the anger. It was the weightlessness. No more walking on eggshells. No more monitoring my tone or managing her mood or wondering what version of me would pass her latest calibration test. I was done being restructured. I wasn't the man who got dumped in a social media thread. I was the man who walked out while the applause was still echoing, because I already knew the joke was on them. And her? She finally stopped posting for a while. No reviews. No updates. Just absence. Maybe she thought silence would win me back. She didn't understand. Silence was the only thing I wanted from her anymore. The house sold. Proceeds split. Titles cleared. I left my key on the counter, walked out, and didn't look back. No fanfare. No final words. Just closure.